אדונו בחיו בציון ומספד בירושלים.
My name is Atir. I'm 25 years old. I was born here in Israel. When I was very young, I moved to New York with my family. My dad used to work there. I had the privilege of growing up in New York City for close to a decade before moving back to Israel for my sophomore year of high school. I finished high school here in the city of Modi'in, was drafted to the IDF in 2019. I served in Seret Givati, which is the Special Forces unit of the Givati Brigade. Today I'm a student at IDC Reichman University. Now let's dive back close to 3 years ago to that same dark Saturday morning, which I'm sure you remember where you were. I'll share with you where I was. I was right here at a festival, dancing, laughing, and waiting for the sunrise until everything changed. I'll add a bit of context of what's like happening around us. First of all, I have to say that I'm pretty much here by chance. In Israel, we have this huge travel culture. The second you finish the army, you have to fly as far away as you can from here. When traveling for a whole year, South Central North America, I met a bunch of new friends. Those are the friends that convinced me to come to this festival. We're here, 3,500 people in total, about 3,000 partygoers. The rest are staff and security. I'm here with 20 friends, 2 of which serve with me in the IDF. Like I said, we plant our campsite somewhere around this area. We're a bit to the right of the main stage. And like I said, there's like this whole campsite festival themed, where everybody just plants around the main stage, sit, drink, laugh with their friends, go in and out of the dance floor. Pretty much what we see here today, nothing looked the same. None of these paved roads. Picture this just open area. Big stage, about 5 or 6 times the size of this replica. Second stage right in front of it, 2 big bars in the middle. This entire area is sort of fenced in around us. Right over there where you see the flagpoles is where everybody, you'd scan your QR code to enter the festival. And over there where there's a bunch of little trees they planted 2 Bishvats ago is where that huge parking lot was. Close to 6:30 in the morning, 6:29 in the morning, Hamas opens with a sudden attack on Israel. Rockets lit up the sky on top of us. Head of security gets up on the main stage. He shuts off the music. He grabs the mic. He's like, everybody listen up. We're under attack. Everybody listen to the home front command's instructions, which pretty much means lie down on the floor and put your hands on your head and evacuate the area of the festival. Now, as depressing as that sounds, us being Israelis, we didn't get too excited by these rocket attacks. There's even some of us yelling at him for their money back, like, who are you to be shutting off the party now? Like, are you nuts? Slowly, this barrage of rockets becomes more intense. From tens of rockets, we're talking about hundreds of rockets right on top of us. Iron Dome comes into action. You start hearing booms. Panic starts to slowly break loose, and we understand that we need to evacuate the area of the festival. Zooming out to what's happening around us, 6:30 as well as a huge rocket barrage. Hamas, first wave out of 3 infiltrate Israel on 71 different points all along the border. By about 6:45, there's already terrorists right next to Kibbutz Alumim and at the entrance of Be'eri. By 7 o'clock, they are inside of Alumim and breaking into Be'eri. We have no idea of what's happening here at the festival. Just try and picture what's happening at these moments. The few police that are here, we're talking about 30 police officers, only armed security that is here, armed only with their handguns. They push down the fences that are surrounding us so that people could try and get into their vehicles and leave this area. Now you can imagine how much of a traffic chaos there is when 3,500 people are all trying to get into their vehicles at the same time and evacuate the area. Those who drove north towards Kibbutz Be'eri, close to 7 o'clock in the morning, would be met by Hamas checkpoints. some murdered on the spot. Many take a U-turn, drive back, and report of gunfire to the north to the few police that are here trying to sort of manage the traffic. Police block the road up north, evacuating people only south towards Reim, which is another 2 kilometers to the south of us, not knowing that simultaneously there's terrorists in the Tel Gamra and Reim junction, massacring everybody that goes to the south.
יורים עלינו בספר תורה, יורים עלינו אחי, יורים עלינו, בוא לפה, יורים עלינו אחי, יורים עלינו, תן לי פה, אור בו.
Eventually the police blocked the road to the south, and the only way to evacuate was east into the fields. I'm going to zoom into my personal story. Me and my 2 friends from my team, we take responsibility over our group of friends. We walk towards the big parking lot. We didn't bring our personal vehicles. We came here by bus. So we start hitchhiking our way out. We get the girls on a ride. We get the guys on a ride. I'm left here with one of my close friends. His name is Aviel. He's in my team in the IDF. We're the last of our big group of friends to stay here at the festival. Eventually, I would say close to about 7:20, 7:30, we managed to find a ride out of here ourselves. These 2 random party goers pick us up. They're driving to Tel Aviv. We drove around the area of the festival. We made it out onto this road here, road 232. This road is like the main artery of the envelope. It runs all along from the south of the strip with the Egyptian border to the north of the strip. By the time we make it out onto the road, it's about 7:30 in the morning. And by this point, both the road to the north towards Kibbutz Be'eri and to the south towards Kibbutz Reim are blocked. Hundreds of party goers are all stuck on this road. Like I said, this is the first time I encountered a few of the wounded. I saw some girls with bullet wounds and some guys getting first aid. Like, this is the first time I realized that I saw actually people with gunshots. And I realized it's a bit bigger than just a rocket attack. Like I said, I walked out of the car. I started asking around a bunch of people that are walking here, like, what's going on? Like, what are we supposed to do? Out of nowhere, this police officer, I think he came running from the north, just pops out of nowhere, all of his chest filled with bullet wounds, blood's pouring out of his mouth. He screams at us, run east. East is straight this way into the fields. I snap out of it, adrenaline kicks in. Like I said, I grab my phone, I check where east is. East is straight into the fields. Now, there's like a drop of elevation from here. I don't want to walk all the way there, but there's like a drop of elevation. I see it. I sort of start I almost fell down. I run down into this like dry river stream. And like I said, the second I make it down into the riverbed, I hear this loud noise. I take a look up here and I see a bunch of terrorists on foot starting to open fire towards there. Everybody's pretty much held up over here. And, like I said, we start running east. They start shooting towards us down in the field. Pretty much that exact second is when everybody leaves everything and everybody just starts running in every single direction. I stay close into the trees. This sort of stream, it splits up into 3. There's like 1, 2 in the middle and a third direction. And I kept running in the middle. First of all, the Gaza envelope, beautiful area. It's kind of dry now, we're close to summer. Flat agricultural fields mainly. There's not much elevation differences. As you see, just flat fields pretty much. Except in this like dry riverbeds where you have a bit of trees, a bit of bush. When I run into the fields, I'm running like from a tree to a tree. To try and picture how it is when you're running in the fields. We ran close to these bushes. And like I said, people are running all around us. And imagine you're running close to the bush. I was running like out of the bush, 100 feet sprint, running back into the bush. Like that's how it like moved forward. And then suddenly while I was running, like picture the group in front of you just takes a sharp right into the open field. And you're like, why are you taking a sharp right? You freak out because like maybe they saw something. You take a sharp right after them. And inside of these fields, I don't know if you can see, but all of these fields, when it's completely empty, there's like trenches. And you can't really run inside of these fields, especially not with sneakers. It's like deep It's like deep soil. You can't really run in here. And then boom, mortars start hitting in front of us, drop down on the floor. It's an open field. There's not much we can do except put our hands on our head. We see the mortars falling in front of us. This group that we saw just kept running right. We had no idea why. Eventually I tell Atir, like, stop, like we're running in an open field and a machine gun could take us out in a second. Run back, we ran back into the bush and continued just progressing forward very close to the bushes and this road until we teamed up with this group that we met here. The 6 of us, we meet right over here. We join up together. We need to find shelter to wait it out for the rescue party. And we need to find water as quick as we can. Now, we're in an open field. There's not much, like, where we start looking around, we see all these pipes, like, we had no, like, real idea what are we gonna do. And then we stumble onto, you see there's a farm over there. We're like, okay, perfect. Might be a great source of water. I don't know if you could see it, we'll get closer soon. But you see those trees? When nothing is growing, you could visibly see the farm. Like, you could see that there's buildings and there's something over there. Like, it's the only reasonable place that we can go to, right over there. So we're like, perfect, this might be a perfect source of water and a perfect place to hide it out from the terrorists. But the thing is, we start walking towards the farm and we see 4 figures at the entrance of this farm with their faces covered. At first we see them, we freak out, we think they're terrorists. In retrospect, these are Thai foreign workers that work the fields. There's a bunch of foreign farmers that work the fields and they cover their faces because of the scorching heat. But from about 300, 400 feet away, it looks exactly like terrorists. We freak out, we take this huge detour around the farm. There's greenhouses right next to the farm. This is the first time we stopped running. It's about 11 o'clock in the morning. We're the 6 of us by this point, 5 guys and a girl. I was the only responsible one to run with a bottle of water. I ran with like half a liter of water. The entire time running in the fields, like I'd give Atil a sip and me a sip, trying to save the water because we didn't know how the day's gonna progress. And by that point, I couldn't hide my water because all of us were about to be dehydrated. We sort of split the very few drops of water that I have. And it's like a first time we had to catch our breath since everything started at 6:30 in the morning. And there's a bunch of lists running around, they're sending us on WhatsApp a bunch of lists. Your IDs, locations, who's missing, kidnappings, who's killed. Everybody takes a second to sort of fill out their information and send it forward so that we were assuming it's going to get to our parents so that they know that we're fine, like that we have, that this is the location that we're in right now. And we sort of wait out in this greenhouse for about 30, 45 minutes. And if it's hot outside, you can imagine how hot it is inside of this greenhouse. It's almost twice as hot. And Schacter, the only girl with us, is almost barely responding. Like she's about to completely dehydrate. We need to make a decision now. And the only reasonable thing we could do is go to this farm that previously we saw figures that we thought were terrorists. Out of nowhere, another miracle happens. This Thai farmer on his bicycle just rides his bike adjacent to the greenhouse that we're hiding in, completely oblivious to the fact that Israel's at war. Like, the sky is filled with helicopters. Like, you can't picture this better. Like, Israel's clearly at war. He's riding his bike like it's another casual Saturday morning, directly towards the farm that we saw the figures before. We took a few seconds to sort of talk to each other. Okay, if they were terrorists, they probably would have shot him. Or maybe they're Thai farmers like him. If they were terrorists, they maybe left the area because we didn't hear anything. And we muster up the courage. We decide we're going to go to this farm. We're going to look for an opening. We're going to get water because we're about to be dehydrated. And we're going to hide out in the farm until rescue can come and pick us up. So the greenhouses were right here. They don't exist today, but there were greenhouses right here adjacent. Like I said, we muster up the courage. The 6 of us, we decide we're going to enter this farm and look for water. The gate is closed. The gate's locked. And like I said, we split up into 2. The 3 guys in front of us and me and Atil carrying Schacter behind. And we sort of walk our way around the fence to look for an opening into the farm. So we crawl our way around the fence. We make it to this entrance over here, just of course on the other side. And I'm like hiding, there's bushes over there. I'm hiding behind the bushes. One of the guys in front, there's like a faucet outside of here. He bends down to try and drink the faucet. And then Younes approaches him and That's when we first met Younes.
אז שלום, זה אני גרנאווי יונס מרהט, עובד בחוות הזרע כבר קרוב ל-30 שנה. ב-7 באוקטובר אני הייתי פה במקום עבודה. שמעתי שהייתה חדירה של מחבלים לשטח ישראל. אז שקיבלתי כל מיני סרטונים, שראיתי הרבה מחבלים שנכנסו. ולצערי הרב הרכב שלי היה דומה לרכב שלהם, אז החלטתי להישאר במקום העבודה, לא ללכת הביתה. והיה לי 24 תאילנדים ביחד, אז הראיתי להם את הסרטונים אמרתי להם שאנחנו צריכים לשמור על עצמנו. שמתי בכל שער 3-4 תאילנדים לצפות, אמרתי כל דבר שאתם רואים, אתם באים להגיד לי. בשעות הבוקר באו חבר'ה מהנובה שהיו במסיבה מהנובה, נכנסו מהשער הזה, אז אני הייתי עומד שמה. זה החדר שלי, אחד מהם קוראים לו שלב, הוא בא בדיוק עמד פה, ואחד התאילנדי סימן לי שיש מישהו בתוך החווה בפנים, אז אני באתי משמה וראיתי את שלב עומד, היה איזה כלי פה, עמד פה והיה בלי חולצה, זיהיתי שיש לו עגלים באוזן, אז נרגעתי, אמרתי זה משלנו, אז שאלתי אותו, כן, מי אתה, מה אתה עושה פה? אז הבן אדם נבהל, הסתכל עליי, אז שאל אותי גם אותו שאלה, מי אתה, מה אתה עושה פה? אז אמרתי לו, אני בדואי מרהט, עובד פה. אז ביקש ממני אם אתה יכול לעזור לי, אמרתי לו, כן, בטח. אז אמר לי שהוא נמצא עם עוד 5 חברים שהם מתחבאים בין הכלים. אמרתי לו, תקרא לכולם. אז התחיל לקרות להם, חבר'ה תצאו, יש פה מי שרוצה לעזור לנו. כולנו התאספנו פה, והתחילו לשאול אותי שאלות, מי אתה, מאיפה אתה, מה אתה עושה פה? אז אמרתי להם, אני בדואי מרהט, עובד פה. שאלו אותי, אתה חושב שיגיעו מחבלים לפה? אמרתי להם, אני בטוח שלא יגיעו מחבלים, אבל תרגעו, הכל בסדר. ולקחתי אותם לחדר אוכל, אז לקחתי את כולם, בדיוק היה 5 אנשים, 5 חבר'ה.
Younes, he sees one of the guys in front, like he just explains, he sees Shalev, and they have their conversation. Shalev at first is startled by Younes. He hears Younes' accent, he thinks he's from Gaza at first. Eventually we realize that Younes is an Israeli, he works here at the farm, brings all 6 of us in, puts us in this building. You know, truly a moment of stress relief. Younes gives us everything he has, like food, water, pita, hummus, he's cutting fruit. Like everybody has a moment to sort of catch his breath. Like hard to explain this moment of like stress relief. All 6 of us wait inside of this building. Younes at this point, he walks around the farm, he sort of patrols. He finds another 2 more party goers. To be more accurate, one of the farmers comes up to Younes. Younes is somebody else here, and he sees another boy and girl at a different entrance from the Nova Festival. He brings them in here, makes us a total of 8. We're 6 guys and 2 girls. All of us in here.
אז שהם היו יושבים פה, אני הייתי מסתובב פה. הייתי מסתובב לראות מה המצב. בדיוק כשהייתי פה, אז אני מזהה אחד התאילנדים, הוא בא באותו דרך, ואני שומע שהוא קורא לי יונס, 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 והוא הגיע לפה, והוא מסמן לי ככה עם הידיים שלו, אז בדיוק אני הייתי שומע משהו שמתקרב אלינו, אז בדיוק סימנתי לתאילנדי לשבת, הוא ישב שם איפה הכיסא הזה ישב, החבר'ה היו בתוך החדר, אז לא רציתי להפחיד אותם, אז פתאום שהייתי עומד פה, בדיוק ככה, אז פתאום אני מזהה את האופנוע העובר מפה, ואני מזהה מבין העצים שיש שני אנשים, שני מחבלים שעל אופנוע, עם הנשק שלהם והכל. אז שראיתי שהם עברו מפה, עשו את הסיבוב ככה, אז אני באתי לאט לאט להסתכל מפה לאיזה כיוון הם רוצים ללכת. אז אני מסתכל מפה, אז בדיוק לא היה הרכב הזה פה. אז אני רואה אותם שיעצרו בשער שמה, שעצרו בשער. אז בדיוק אני רואה את המחבל, זה שמאחורה ירד, ובא לכיוון השער, תפס את השער, התחיל לדחוף את השער. אז הבנתי שהוא רוצה להיכנס בכל מחיר. אז קיבלתי החלטה שאני אצא לדבר איתו. אמרתי, אם הוא ייכנס, אין לנו מה להתווכח איתו, ויהיה המצב לא טוב. אז כשקיבלתי החלטה לצאת ולדבר איתו, בדיוק חזרתי לפה, וצעקתי אליהם לחבר'ה, אמרתי להם, חבר'ה, תסתתרו, יש מחבלים, ואני לא יודע לאיזה כיוון הם הלכו, ואני יצאתי ככה לכיוון של המחבל. בדיוק הוא היה בשער, אז אני באתי ככה, אחרי הטרקטור ככה.
The 8 of us were sort of resting here. After about an hour of us, catching our strength back, Younes comes into this building, screams at us, there's terrorists, runs back out, sort of leaves us like, we don't know what we're supposed to do. We can already start hearing the screaming in Arabic. We walk out, the 8 of us, we walk out of the building. We sort of stand here, we could hear Younes screaming in Arabic to them. We see this opening on the floor. I'm pretty sure it was Avia's idea to go underneath. This is like split-second decisions. Like I said, we could already, 5 Hamas terrorists are on their way to the farm, 2 at that entrance, another 3 about to make their way around here. We see this opening. We have a few seconds to decide, like, what are we supposed to do? We crawl underneath this building. I crawl from over here. I think Avia gets down underneath from over there. I crawl from under here underneath. Crawl deep underneath that building. You could see there's like, 10 inches off the ground? From here you can't see, but it's a situation that if they break in, all they need to do is like just bend down like this, and they see all of us lying down underneath. All 8 of us were underneath here. And then Younes, this incredible man that we just met, he goes and confronts those monsters and starts speaking to them in Arabic. Now, I don't know any Arabic. I know a few basic phrases from my service, but I don't understand what's being said, and I can hear the terrorists screaming at the top of their lungs, Yehud, 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 Yehud. Bring out the Jews, bring out the Jews, bring out the Jews. And Younes is screaming stuff at them back in Arabic. And for about 10 minutes, they're going back and forth at each other in Arabic. Many, many things run through our minds. For all we know, they're forcing him at gunpoint to cooperate, because we heard his stories in the kibbutzim of how they'd force neighbors to knock on their neighbors' doors at gunpoint. He might be cooperating with them out of his own will. Maybe they will go and get more reinforcements. So many things are running through our minds. 10 minutes that last forever. After about 10 minutes, it turns completely quiet.
זה איך שאני הגעתי משם, רציתי כאילו לדבר עם המחבל. אני באתי אחרי הטרקטור ואני רואה אותו עומד בשער ותופס את השער, רוצה להיכנס. אז כשאני מסתכל עליו, אני ישר דיברתי איתו בערבית, אמרתי לו, כן, מה אפשר לעזור לך? אז ראה שאני מדבר ערבית, אמר לי, מי אתה? מה אתה עושה פה? אמרתי לו, אני בדואי מרהט, עובד פה. אז אומר לי, תצא לדבר אותי. אז אני רואה, השני היה אחרי העצם האופנוע, אז אמרתי לו, אני לא יכול, אני מפחד שהחבר שלך יהרוג אותי. אז פתאום מבקש ממני, תפתח את השער. אמרתי לו, אין לי מפתחות של השער. עוד פעם חוזר על אותו מילים, תפתח את השער, אני אומר לך, אני אומר לו, אין לי מפתחות של השער. אז פתאום אומר לי, יש לך יהודים ערומים, תוציא את היהודים שיש לך. אז התחלתי לרעוד, אמרתי איך הוא ראה אותם שהם ערומים, איך ראה שנכנסו אצלי יהודים. אז לא ברחתי, אמרתי לו, על איזה יהודים אתה מדבר? אני לא מבין על מה אתה מדבר. אומר לי, יש לך יהודים ערומים, תוציא את היהודים שיש לך. אמרתי לו, אני לא ראיתי אף יהודי, לא ראיתי אף אחד. אני פה לבד, תתרחק מפה, אין לי קשר במה שאתה עושה פה. אז עוד פעם חזר, אני אומר לך, תוציא את היהודים, אני לא יהרוג אותך. אז אמרתי לו, נשבע לך שאני פה לבד. לא ראיתי אף בן אדם. ואני, יש לי משפחה, אני מגדל ילדים קטנים, יש לי משפחה, עזוב אותי, לך מפה. לקח לי להתווכח אותו בערך בין 6 ל-7 דקות. פתאום החליט לעזוב את המקום. ההוא מהאופנוע אחרי העץ, הניע את האופנוע וההוא עלה מאחריו, והם נסעו לכיוון החווה של ניר עם, פה רחוק מאיתנו, זה 3 קילומטר. כשראיתי שהם התחילו לנסוע, אני באתי בריצה לחפש את החבר'ה, נכנסתי בחדר אוכל, לא מצאתי אף אחד. יותר משעה, שעה וחצי, אני רץ כמו משוגע, ואני קורא להם, אני לא הייתי מכיר את השמות שלהם. חבר'ה, מישהו שומע אותי, חבר'ה, מישהו שומע אותי. בחרתי שהם יחזרו עוד פעם, יותר משעה, שעה וחצי, אני רץ, אף אחד לא עונה לי.
And Younes starts looking for us. And like I said, we were so scared. We didn't know what was being said, that all of us stayed underneath this building, radio silent. Younes is like looking for us to come out because he didn't exactly see that we crawled underneath. And we're radio silent. This is the point where it gets kind of blurry for me because you can imagine I've been at it since 6:30 in the morning. It's about close to 1 p.m. Like I'm in and out of consciousness. My phone, this is the only picture I took from October 7th. I take a picture from underneath the building. When I hear the terrorists already screaming in Arabic, I send it to my team in the IDF that are rendezvousing in their base. Like, this is the situation. There's terrorists at the farm. Boom, my phone dies. And by the time that Younes is looking for us, when the terrorists already left, looking for us to come out, I'm like in and out of consciousness. I don't exactly know what's going on. All I know is that I need to stay quiet until the rescue party arrives.
אם בהתחלה אחד בשם אייל קיבל את הטלפון שלי, ביקש את הטלפון שלי, נתתי לו את הטלפון שלי, וטלפון של חבר שלי שעובד איתנו פה במים, קוראים לו לירן. אז שהם נכנסו מתחת לבניין, אז לא ידעתי שהם מתחת לבניין. אחד מהם שקיבל את המספרי טלפון היה מתכתב עם אח שלו, שהוא מתחת לבניין, שאנחנו נמצאים במקום ככה וככה, ואצל מישהו בשם יונס, והגיעו עלינו מחבלים, וכך תדבר עם לירן הזה, תשאל מי זה יונס. אז דיברו עם לירן לשאול מי זה יונס. פתאום אני מקבל שיחה עם לירן, יונס מה המצב? אני אומר לו המצב לא טוב, אנחנו מחבלים, יש לי אנשים שהחביתי אותם. אז הוא אומר לי תרגע, הכל בסדר. יש מישהו איתנו על הכף, רוצה לדבר אותך, אז אמרתי לו מי זה? אז הוא אומר לי מה לשמה יונס? אני אומר לו בסדר. הוא אומר לי אני קוראים לי צוף, יש לי בקשה אליך. אני אומר לו כן. הוא אומר לי לך איפה שהחבר'ה ישבו, תנקה את כל הדברים, כל האוכל ששמת להם. אמרתי לו מה הקשר? אתה משטרה? הוא אומר לי לא, אבל תעשה מה שאני אומר לך. אז בדיוק הלכתי, אמרתי לו, אבל אני מחפש אותם, אני לא מצא אותם. הוא אומר לי, אני אגיד לך איפה הם. נכנסתי לחדר אוכל, אספתי את כל הדברים שלהם, הלכתי לזרוק שם איפה העץ. בדיוק בחזרה, הוא היה איתי על הכף. בחזרה היה לי איזה בקבוק מים שבחדר אוכל, שהם לקחו את הבקבוק איתם מתחת לבניין. כשהייתי בחזרה, אני זיהיתי את הבקבוק מתחת לבניין. אז אמרתי לו, צוף, אל תגיד לי איפה הם, אני מצאתי אותם. הוא אומר לי, איך מצאת? אני אמרתי לו, אני מצאתי. אז בדיוק אני מתכופף מתחת לבניין, אז אני רואה אותם אחד כאילו ליד השני, כמו סרדין כזה. ופתאום התחלתי לצעוק עליהם, למה אתם לא עונים לי? אני כבר שעה וחצי מחפש אתכם. תצאו, אני משיג לכם חילוץ. הם התחילו לצאת, אנחנו התקשרנו למשטרה, פיקוד העורף, עד שהשגנו להם חילוץ, אחד בשם עמי שעובד במשווה הנגב. הוא פתאום בא בשער וצופר בשער וקורא יונס תפתח את השער. אז היה מצב מפחיד, לא כל רכב אפשר לצאת לראות מי זה, למה אמרו שהם גם גנבו רכבים ועשו כל מיני דברים. אז הוא מסמן ליונס, זה בסדר, תפתח את השער. אז אני פותח לו את השער והוא נכנס, הוא אומר לי, אני באתי לאסוף את האנשים שיש לך פה. אמרתי לו, עם 8 אנשים, אתה צריך עוד רכב. אמר, תכף אני מזמין עוד רכב, שנייה אחת הזמין רכב, איזה רבע שעה מגיע עוד חבר. והם הגיעו לפה והם אספו אותם, לקחו אותם, ביקשו ממני שאני אסע איתם לבטיש, אמרתי להם, אני גר ברהט, אין לי מה לעשות בבטיש, עוד שעה, חצי שעה המשטרה יבוא, יצילו אותנו, וזה היה להפך. הם נסעו לבטיש ואני ועוד 24 תאילנדים, שנתקענו פה עד יום שני בערב, עד שקיבלנו מפיקוד העורף אישור שאנחנו יכולים ללכת הביתה. וביום חמישי, יום שני בשעה 5:30 בערב, הנעתי את הרכב שלי והתחלתי לנסוע לאט לאט, לצאת. אז פתאום אני ביציאה, אני מזהה הרבה חיילים, הרבה טנקים, הרבה רכבים, אז כולם מסתכלים עליי, שמתי דגל ישראל על הרכב, זה מה שאמר לי פיקוד העורף, שים דגל ישראל, ופתאום כולם מסתכלים עליי, מאיפה הבן אדם הזה יצא, ולאט לאט עד שהגעתי הביתה.
Two vehicles with brave men from Kibbutz Patish. These guys are the bravest of the brave. These guys, men like Rami knows Davidyan, not specifically them, but that same group of people, only with their handguns, in and out of the killing fields from 8 a.m. till 8 p.m. Many of them did not make it out. Two of these vehicles, they arrive at the farm, and that's the first time I remember for myself crawling from underneath the buildings when I hear the rescue party screaming in Hebrew for us to come out. We crawl out, and then you have that moment with Younes that, you know, we were embarrassed that we didn't trust him, that he saved our lives. So there's like these moments with Younes where it's also a split second. All I see is this giant Chevy Silverado. All I'm thinking is just get me out of here. And no, what's your name? What's your number? Thank you for saving my life. Younes is righteous among the nations. This man, he didn't wake up that morning and chose to be a hero. I don't know with what godlike courage he managed to stand, look those monsters straight in the eye, and risk his entire life for us. This man has 6 kids back at home. He decides to be human. He decides courage over fear, looks them straight in the eye, holds his ground, tells them that there's no Jews at the farm. Eventually, there's also a miracle, the fact that they believed him, because there are many Bedouins that were both kidnapped and murdered that morning. Eventually, those monsters believe him, and the 2 that are at that entrance and the 3 that are sort of walking around, we can literally see the feet of the 3 that are walking close to this fence, trying to look to see if anybody's inside. They meet up at the corner of the gate of the farm, of the fence of the farm, and continue on their murderous rampage. So there comes a day when we'll all be available to drive down south, meet this angel called Younes, and thank the man who saved our lives. Now, how do you say thank you to a man who saved your life? It's such an amorphic question. So I come from Russian culture. We bring a nice fancy bottle of alcohol, but Younes is a Muslim. He doesn't drink. So how do I thank the man? You can't give him money. It's just wrong. So eventually we came up with this decision to make an article for him. We made a very emotional article for him. It aired on Channel 12, which is the largest Israeli news channel here. And to sort of give Younes the recognition he deserves, and to showcase the complexity of Israeli society, how you have Arabs, Bedouins, Jews, and these very unique stories where all of that is put aside. Younes didn't ask himself if we were Jewish, if we were Arab. He just purely chose to be human. We share our testimony a lot. We also took Younes all the way to the Israeli president's house, and he got an award in Hebrew. It's called Ot HaGvura Ezrachit, Midei Nasi. I guess the best translation would be like the civilian medal of honor for bravery. We share our story to many different communities. At the end of the day, I was extremely lucky. Unfortunately, 364 people weren't as lucky as I was. They were brutally murdered in the fields around us and in the Nova festival sites. 44 were kidnapped. Thank God, as of today, all of them, there's no more kidnapped people in Gaza. So yeah, it's also very important for me to say that I'm standing here and sharing my story. Obviously, there's a huge element of luck and a miracle, but also thanks to Younes, this just incredible man who, there's no words to describe what he did for us. אח שלי, איזה ואקום. בריאות. מה זה בריאות? רק בריאות, אמן.
אלוהים ישמור אותך, אני אוהב
גם אותך, אני אוהב אותך המון. מה היינו עושים בלעדיך? לא הייתי עומד פה. אלוהים ישמור. וזה היה עוד שנייה 3 שנים, אתה קולט?
כן. הזמן רץ.
טק.
How powerful and how impactful is this story that we just saw. It's gripping, it's painful, and it's miraculous. B'chol dor vador omdim aleinu l'chalotenu. There is something about the Jewish people that arouses the envy and the enmity of others. In every generation, b'chol dor vador, there are those who want to destroy us. We say these words in the Haggadah on Leil HaSeder, but we focus on these words on Tisha B'Av. Of course, on this day, we remember and we commemorate the 2 Churbanot. The Mishnah tells us at the end of Massacre Ta'anit, Chamisha Dvarim Iru et Avotenu b'Sheva Asar b'Tammuz v'Chamisha b'Tisha B'Av. There are a number of events that happened on this day, 2 of them, Charav Habayit Barishono Bishnia. The Gemara, in commenting on this passage in the Mishnah, wants to know what's the source, Minolon. So for the first one, the Gemara quotes Psukim. One pasuk says it was the 7th, one pasuk says it was the 10th. How did it happen? How did it turn out? For the second one, Ubishnia Minolon, there are no psukim. It's already after the Chatimat HaTanach. The Gemara says, you know how you know that the second Beit HaMikdash was destroyed on Tisha B'Av? Megalgalin chova liyom chayav. Bad things happen on bad days. It's already a bad day. It's a yom chayav. The first Beit HaMikdash was destroyed. So you're not sure when it happened. It happened on a bad day. It's linked to a bad day. It's associated with a bad day. But it's important to recognize, and this is what brings us to October 7 and the impact of October 7 that we're still feeling, and why it's relevant today. It's important to recognize that it's not just that all kinds of events happened on Tisha B'Av, that's a Yom Chayav, but on Tisha B'Av is a day set aside to remember all Jewish tragedies. And this is fundamental to the kinot that we recite. And I want to briefly walk you through examples of this, which provides the backdrop, the context for what it is that we're doing today, remembering events in our time and in our days. B'chol dor vador omdim aleinu l'chalotenu. The very beginning, the first kinot that we say on Tisha B'Av morning, Shavatzu meni shemauni ochrai, towards the end, ad l'chalach v'chavor higlanu. You exiled us to chalach and chavor. Chalach and chavor, nothing to do with the Churbanot. Chalach and chavor were from Galut Aseret Hashvatim long before the destruction even of the first Beit HaMikdash. Why do we mention it today? Didn't happen today. It's not relevant to today. It's hundreds of years before the destruction of even the first Beit HaMikdash. Answer, because that's what Tisha B'Av is. Tisha B'Av is a day that we remember all Jewish tragedies. Now, on March 17, 2024, the Israeli cabinet unanimously approved the creation of a National Remembrance Day for what happened on October 7. It's called Yom HaZikaron HaLe'umi La'ason HaShiva BaOctober U'Lemilchemet Charvot Barzel. And it's on the books. More recently, the Knesset Education Committee and then the plenum of the Knesset advanced legislation to formalize this day permanently. The day that's chosen is 24 Tishrei. It's not going to be on Simchat Torah 22 Tishrei, that's when it started. It's not going to be on 23 Tishrei, because in the Golah it's Simchat Torah. So it's going to be 24 Tishrei. But even if it is on 24 Tishrei, and even if this takes off, today is really the day when we need to think about it, focus on it, watch the kind of video and presentation that we just finished watching, and remember it and place it at the forefront of our minds. Because that's what Tisha B'Av is all about. Already last night, on the night of Tisha B'Av, in the kinot, we say very few kinot, there's a kinah that discusses a debate between Shomron, which is the capital of the northern kingdom of Israel, and Yerushalayim, the capital of the southern kingdom. And each one is trying to say that they suffered more than the other. And in the middle, again, v'lachalach u'lechavar nasa et shivyi. Again, chalach and chavar. Already last night, long before Churban Bayit Rishon even, because it all belongs today. 2nd century, Asara Harugei Malchut. There's a whole kina for the Asara Harugei Malchut. 2nd century Hadrianic persecutions. Tisha B'Av, who knows? All 10 of them didn't happen. Already in the 16th century, Gedalia ibn Yachya in Shalshelat HaKabbalah says, and I quote, V'hapaitanim badu'u zeh ha'inyan bilibam. They made it up. There was never a time when 10 rabbis lined up and one after another were destroyed. They made it up. They created a literary fiction, Lahavi morach belev ha'hamon bayamim hahem, shehem yemei inui u'tshuva. The Yamim Hahem are Yom Kippur and Tisha B'Av, because we mentioned the Asara Harugei Malchut also on Yom Kippur. Why do we mention it? Because it belongs today. 2nd century, destruction, 10 great rabbis, Torah Sheba'al Peh, seriously compromised. There are 4 kinot for the First Crusade at the end of the 11th century. And one of them, Mi Yitein Rosh Mayim, tells us explicitly, Speyer was on the 8th of Iyar, Worms was on the 23rd of Iyar, and Rosh Chodesh Sivan. Mainz was on the 3rd of Sivan. So the Balakina says, why am I mentioning it today? 2.5 minutes ago, 6 lines ago, I told you when it happened, and it happened in Chodesh Iyar and Sivan. V'chi ein lahosif moed shever v'tavera, tachat kein hayom liviati aorara. We don't add days. Today. Didn't happen today. It's not just that we mention today things that happen today, and a lot of things happen because megalgalin chova liyom chayav, even if we know for sure it didn't happen today. October 7th is not Tisha B'Av, but it belongs on Tisha B'Av. 1242, 24 wagon loads full of Sifrei Kodesh were burned in Paris. We have a kinah. The Maharami Rutenberg, Sha'ali Srufa Ba'esh. He was an eyewitness. As a young man studying in the yeshiva of Rabbi Chil of Paris, he witnessed this. And years later, he wrote a kinah that is included. Didn't happen on Tisha B'Av. We actually know it happened Erev Shabbat Parshat Chukat. It happened towards the beginning of Tammuz. Why do we mention it today? Because of course we're going to mention it today. Because it belongs today. The Shoah, moving to the 20th century. Already during the Shoah in 1944, a kinah was written. It's still going on. It's still strong. There's already a kinah that's written. After the Shoah, many more kinot were written. In 1971, Rav Menachem Mendel Kasher, who's well known as the Mechaber of Torah Shlema, Divrei Menachem She'elot Utshuvot Tu Chalakim, we have a record of a conversation that he had with an acquaintance. And he told this acquaintance that, what am I doing? I'm talking about Speyer, Vermeisa, Magenza. I'm talking about what happened during the Crusades, the end of the 11th century, and I'm not talking about the Shoah. It doesn't make any sense. Rabbi Joseph Soloveitchik said, and I heard this because I sat with him for many years on Tisha B'Av, when you say Speyer, you should think of you should think of Berlin. When you say Vermeiza, you should think of Vilna. In other words, it's the same story, but the names are different. He was opposed to setting up new kinot. But Rav Kasher says, it doesn't make any sense. 800 years ago, we're mourning, and we're not mourning for what happened just now in our days. He felt that a kinot needed to be written. In the 1980s, there was a wonderful Jew by the name of Pinchas Herzka, who was involved with Agudat Yisrael, who went on a crusade to get the Gedolei Yisrael affiliated with Agudah to do something for the Shoah. How could it be we're not saying anything? And our community, he said, was hugely hit during the Shoah. And finally, he got the Baba Rebbe to write a kinot, Reb Shimon Schwab to write a kinot. In the back of the art scroll kinot, we find kinot that are written by these people because it was felt to be extremely important. And that brings us to the 21st century, to October 7th. Many kinot have been written. Rav Rimon in particular wrote a kinot that has gotten a lot of traction. Last year in the Mizrachi magazine, I wrote an introduction, 2-page introduction to the kinot of Rav Rimon. I gave a historical background. I know when it happened. It happened on October 7th. It happened Chaf Bet Tishrei. But you know what? Today's the day. Maybe we'll remember it on Chav Daled, maybe we won't, but for sure we have to remember it today. Finally, in conclusion, we need to recognize that Tisha B'Av is not just a Yom Ta'anit, it's not just a Yom Avelut. Tisha B'Av is a Yom Nechama. Miyom Shecharav Beit HaMikdash Nolad HaMashiach. There's a tshuva of the Tashbates, Reb Shimon ben Tzemach Duran, 15th century Spain, who writes that if a child is born and we have a Brit on Tisha B'Av, name the child Menachem. Name the child Menachem if there's a Brit on Tisha B'Av. Because Tisha B'Av is a day of Nechama. The Beit Yosef in Siman Tov Kuf Nun Daled quotes a custom, Minhag Kadum, Shehanashim Rochtzot Roshan Min HaMincha Ulamala B'Yom Tisha B'Av. It's Tisha B'Av and they're already washing. There's a lot of question about this. This is not appropriate. It's a little bit too early. There's no Miktzas Hayom Kekulo when it comes to the Avelus of Tisha B'Av. And yet, in the afternoon, Min HaMincha Ulamala on Tisha B'Av, they're already washing their hair. V'ziknei harishonim hinhigu zeh, v'asu smach ledavar, al ma she'amru b'Haggadah, ki hamashiach nolad b'yom Tisha B'Av. V'tzarech la'asot zecher legoel ulenachem, kedei shelo yityaashu min ha'geula. Tisha B'Av is a very hard day. We remember massive tragedies, whether they happened or didn't happen on that day. But it's a day of Nechama. It's a day when we're looking to the future. B'yom shechara Beit HaMikdash, nolad HaMashiach. And we need to be able to have focus on the Geula also on this day. May HaKadosh Baruch Hu grant us the Simcha, the Nechama, and the Geula for which we so desperately pine. And may we be Zoche for the coming of the Geula Shlema, B'mheira B'yameinu.
Adon Bechiyo B'tzion